So, we are back on. Hello everyone, and it's a spot of tea for me, a sit down for you. I haven't done a video like this in such a long time. I'm going to talk about UFC 205, and I'll be honest with you, what card we have. I mean, it's incredible. Finally, UFC gets New York. If you've seen the countdown show, the way they villainize certain people in office is just hilarious to me, with these ugly shots of this politician and this like evil dark music like he's some super villain. It was quite funny. If you've not seen the McGregor Alvarez countdown, you'll know what I'm talking about. You gotta check it out, it's pretty funny. But that's what I want to talk about, and I am going to talk about all the fights. The 3 championship fights are going to be talked about separately. The Weidman fight I'm definitely going to talk about as well. The prelim fights, whatever you want me to talk about with UFC 205, I will talk about, and I promised you a video and I intend to keep my word. But let's go straight to McGregor and Eddie Alvarez. To me, and I know that a lot of MMA purists are going to want to kill me for saying this, because I know how you feel about pro wrestling, and no, they're not the same, and blah, 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 blah. It reminds me a lot of having like a Ricky Steamboat type character in Eddie Alvarez and a Ric Flair type in Conor McGregor. It just reminds me of that. I wonder if anyone else has felt like that. Anyways, we go to the meat and potatoes. We want to know how this fight's going to go, how it's going to play out, who wins where, who wins with what, and it's very, very interesting. And before I start that part of it, I just want to say one thing that I want to convey. And if you're a Conor McGregor fan, please, please, don't kill me just yet. Let me convey what I need to convey, and you'll understand where I'm going with this. And you can apply this to all walks of life, all walks of sport, all walks of entertainment. But someone's star presence, and sometimes we mistake star power, star presence, charisma, and aura, and we see that, and that's the thing that we see, and that makes so much noise over here, we kind of forget what's going on over there. And sometimes we think that people are far better and far superior than what they are in reality, and I sometimes feel like that happens in MMA and in the case of Conor McGregor. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. I am definitely not saying that. But I have come across quite a few people as of late, and I wouldn't necessarily say that they are UFC MMA fans or UFC MMA fans who can look at something objectively. They are these Conor McGregor fans, and they're like, oh, Conor's going to win, man. No. He won't get taken down. He'll beat him. No, he'll go back up. The guy beat him, but it was a fluke. I swear to God, it was a fluke. I've come across so many people who are like that, and they will not look at it objectively. My friend Chris McGregor, a good friend of mine who's going to be doing videos very soon, he said it best, like where he works. People are just going, oh, McGregor, look at his opponent about Nate Diaz. Oh, he looks shit. He ain't going to win. He ain't going to beat him. And then we all know what happened in the first fight. Now, to McGregor's credit, he came back and he won the rematch, and he showed the type of heart that he has and the type of willingness he has to learn and adapt and adjust in that way. So that says a lot about him. So on the one hand, I think that people see that star aura and they forget about how well skilled he is or where he's weak. And on the other hand, I think we also see the star aura and might not give him the credit for wins that he's been able to pull off. Like the Dustin Poirier fight, for example, or the Max Holloway fight, for example. Both fighters who are very, very good, and I feel like people didn't want to give him the credit for that. And even the Aldo fight, yes, it was 13 seconds, but against Jose Aldo, who dominated everybody, who just recently made Frankie Edgar look really bad in a very one-sided fight, and McGregor just crushed the guy. So, I mean, on the one hand, we don't look at things objectively. On the other hand, we kind of don't give him the credit where it's due. And I think it's an interesting oxymoron that applies to Conor McGregor here. So we think about this fight, McGregor and Eddie Alvarez, and here's how I see it. This is how I visualize it. Okay, first of all, for McGregor to win, I believe, and I think many people out there believe, that it's the early rounds of the fight where Conor's going to be the most dominant. Rounds 1 and 2 historically have shown that's where he's the most effective. That's because he's, as many people have labelled him, a very explosive fighter, likes to move around a lot, and that's a lot of energy that he's using. He can throw big punches, he can be quite good on his back foot, he hits very effective shots to the body, I think that's one of his greatest weapons, and I think in those first 2 rounds I expect to see him move around a lot, kind of try and make Alvarez miss a bit, counter, hit to the body. He might go for that big shot at some point, I wouldn't be surprised by it, and that's where I see him winning the fight, those first 2 rounds. In a way, it's like the same philosophy or the same principle I applied to Junior Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez. If those 2 fight, Junior has to beat him within the first 2 rounds or else. Now we go to Eddie Alvarez. Now, I see Eddie Alvarez, if he wins, it's going to be a long, drawn-out, fierce, uncomfortable battle that he wins, if he wins that way. I can see Eddie Alvarez doing that. Now, Eddie Alvarez has Mark Henry in his corner. Mark Henry is very, 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 very strategic in the way he likes to break fighters down. I have heard tales for years about this man and his infamous notepads, writing down all these plays and these techniques and these things he spots as he watches tape. And if you've watched the countdown, you can see him doing that. Now, that could be one of his big keys to victory. What habits has he picked up on that Conor has that he can then apply to Eddie Alvarez to beat McGregor? It's a very interesting thing here. Now, one thing I want to say is that, let's think about it. The last 2 fights that Eddie Alvarez has lost, Michael Chandler and Donald Cerrone. Now, Chandler beat him by choke, I believe. I think he beat him by choke, I can't remember. They fought in 2011 though, I do remember that fight, and then they had the rematch. And then Donald Cerrone. Now, Cerrone was quite a long, lanky fighter, long reach, and he was able to beat him. Now, a lot of people attribute that to UFC jitters. I attribute that to, in part, UFC jitters, but I would also want to point this out. Cerrone was on a roll, the dude was on fire, he was in a hot streak at that time that led him to a title shot. After that, I'm sure he beat Benson Henderson, and he's looked phenomenal. So that kind of plays a role, and maybe McGregor has seen something in there. Now, McGregor is a little bit more creative with his striking, and he likes to experiment a lot, and he might use that to his advantage to kind of experiment with his long reach and his long frame. Now, the one thing I also want to point out, just like in the Diaz fight, Conor is not going to be facing a featherweight. Now, he's always had the advantage in terms of size and power against featherweights, because when McGregor hits that one big shot, he drops a featherweight and knocks him out cold. Did it to Poirier, did it to Siva, did it to Aldo. Now he's going up a weight class with guys that are sturdier and much heavier. He may not be able to do that. And if he does that, like in the Nate Diaz fight the first time, he may wear himself out and lose a lot of energy. I can visualize this happening too, and I want to touch on this. I wouldn't be surprised if Alvarez takes a lot of damage, because he's known to do that. He takes a lot of damage. I wouldn't be surprised if his eyes are all messed up and then he just steals the fight from McGregor after that. I wouldn't be surprised. The one question that I do have, though, is how much damage can Eddie Alvarez take at this point? You know, he's only 32, but he has been in some wars. If you study his career, the dude has been in some serious fights. He's been in some serious wars, and there is a finite number of damage that you can take in this sport before it begins to catch up with you. Ask Wanderlei Silva. He will be the man to tell you all about that. Ask Minotauro Nogueira. He's another one that can tell you about that. Ask most fighters that are notorious for these wars. At some point, they catch up with you. Do I think that UFC 205 will be that night? Maybe not, maybe so. Time will tell. The other X factor is Eddie Alvarez has good cardio and he has very good wrestling, and I could see him mixing those two things up to kind of take the fight and win the fight that way. So that's one thing I see happening too. But if McGregor wins, it's in the first 2 rounds, or McGregor does what he does against Diaz. But the fact is, Diaz isn't as good a wrestler as Eddie is, and I expect we'll see a lot more wrestling from Eddie. If Eddie wins, it's a long, drawn-out battle that goes to the 5th round. He might even submit him or choke him out. I wouldn't be surprised. He either wins taking the fight to the ground, and he wins by decision. That's how I see it happening. I'm going to stop. I mean, my God, it's been such a long time since I've done this. And listen, kids, I apologise. I am no Robin Black. I mean, that guy is phenomenal. He knows what he's talking about. I clearly don't. But I'm going to stop now, hit this video and upload this video for all of you to see. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel. Are you really excited for this card? I mean, we've got Rashad Evans and Tim Kennedy on the prelims, for God's sakes, and Stevens and Edgar. I mean, this is a fight fan's dream. I mean, I'm making dinner plans for this one. Anyways, I am out of here. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel. Hit that subscribe button down below. Share this. Send this out to people. And stay tuned for more, because I'm going to do some more videos during the week. Take care, kids, and peace.